Please welcome Barry Blake, Vice President of Research, SEM World.
I never thought I'd walk in anywhere to that song like that. That was quite impressive. Thank you. It's great to be here. I want to thank the John and the Elemica team for having me today. This is a great venue. It's a great location. My flight in, I come from Boston, and my flight from Boston the number was 1776. And I said, hey, that's pretty cool. Some important things happened in Philadelphia in 1776. So I was able to take a walk down to Independence Hall, see the Liberty Bell, and it's a great place. So again, thank you very much for having me here today. What I'm going to talk about today over the course of the next 40 minutes or so is it's the word collaboration, which may be the most overused word in supply chain. Now, I don't have any data to support that, so I might as well take a poll here. Who thinks that collaboration is the most overused word in supply chain? Well, I got a few. All right, well, I don't know if that's half, but some of you certainly raised your hand. The fact that it's overused, in my opinion, doesn't lessen the value of collaboration. It doesn't lessen its import, and it doesn't lessen the fact that it actually works when deployed appropriately. With that, I am going to, okay. Before I get into the presentation itself, I want to spend just a moment or two just communicating a little bit about what SEM World is. Okay, the way we position ourselves as a practitioner-driven research community, right? Practitioner-driven supply chain community. Within our community, we have over 20,000 supply chain professionals, and cutting across a number of different industries and a number of different companies, obviously. The purpose or the objective of SEM World is really to provide a way for the high potentials within your organization, the high potentials within your supply chain organization. If they're middle managers on a fast track to career, we want to help you accelerate their learning. That's essentially what we're trying to do. There are opportunities for training with certain APICs and other programs. What may be missing is the growth opportunities, the learning opportunities for those people in those middle management roles who you want to move into the senior level executive roles. That's kind of what we're trying to do. And how we do that is through the community itself. Practitioners learning from other practitioners. Now you can see here some of these just big statistics, right? So the companies we have, over $4 trillion in market capitalization. The number of production facilities and the companies that are part of our community, over 5,000. Combined revenues of over $3 trillion. And combined number of employees of over 5 million. So what we have is a lot of big companies, a lot of companies with many, many supply chain assets, with many, many supply chain employees. So many, many opportunities to learn from each other. That's what we're doing at SEM World. Now, how we structure our content is these modules. You see these 10 modules here. I want to see what you guys are looking at as far as, okay, that's pretty good. So these 10 modules are the buckets, how we bucket our content. Our content consists of research reports that we're responsible for writing. In how we do that, and you're going to see some of this data today, is we survey the community. Those 20,000 professionals who are part of the community, we survey them, which does give us in most cases, our surveys have very large sample sizes, which just adds to the credibility of the data. But that's one component of what we do. The other component is the practitioner webinars that we record. Practitioners from many different industries, from process industries, from Dow, from DuPont, from P&G, from Nike. They record webinars on best practices that they're doing within these areas, right? So just take supply chain, sales and operations planning and integrated business planning. We have a number, 12 to 15 assets within the library, and you could see them as ranked from entry level, kind of 101 material, all the way to advanced. That's how we structure the learning opportunities. It's the way we categorize the knowledge of the supply chain community. So with that, I want to jump into the presentation itself. As I said, the word collaboration can be overused, and depending on your temperament, it can sound, when you hear it, it can sound like the rake of fingernails down a blackboard, or it can be a little bit more melodious. And I think the reason for this is that it's a slippery term. We're not sure. It's similar to quality. Everybody kind of knows quality when they see it, but they're not really sure what it is. It's a slippery term. So what we did over the past 2 years, we've conducted research on collaboration, supply chain collaboration. In particular, what are some of those benefits? What are the benefits in performance that you achieve when you have truly collaborative relationships with trading partners? These are the outcomes: cost savings, risk. You mitigate against certain supply chain risks. Those risks can come early on in the development cycle of a product. If you involve your suppliers early on in the development of your products, risks can get mitigated on both sides that way, because you're lessening the amount of investment that each side has to involve. That obviously correlates with the innovation process itself, leading to faster ramp-up of products that you launch into market. Productivity obviously improves, and you're going to see some of these in some of the examples. What we do is we take a look at the benefits of collaboration for innovation processes and for efficiency processes. So many opportunities just exist when a supply chain practitioner from a supplier goes to a customer, sees how they're working with their processes, how they receive material into their warehouses, and the problem-solving nature of the supply chain practitioner kicks in at that point and says, why are we doing it this way? We make these slight, simple changes, and we're going to reap these benefits. We're going to improve productivity. Now, one of the most, I guess, interesting points from our research into collaboration, or the benefits of collaboration, is the strategic impact you see here. The 50% faster organizational learning. One of the main complaints that you hear in supply chain is that we learn a best practice, but it disappears. It's like a math formula that went into your head, you understood it for the test, and then it just goes away, and you forget about it. That's kind of how this learning is often discussed within supply chain. What you see here is that sustained learning in much faster, a faster improvement in the positive outcomes that we see on top there. That is one of the major kind of benefit you receive when you do have those truly collaborative relationships. So, collaboration is strategic. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but what you're going to do, what I wanted to do for you today was, we talk about the slippery term of collaboration. I wanted to put it on a firmer analytical foundation for you. So these slides are going to be they're data slides from a study that we ran, again, over the past couple of years, and you see the response size of 377. But collaboration, no surprise, it is strategic to our business. Close to 57% feel that collaboration is a strategic priority for them. And it is in the here and now. It's not something that is years away. We're going to have to put something in place that we're going to realize the benefits years from now. No, this is something now, since if you look at it, only 13% say it's a future goal. 0.4% say it's not important at all. I mean, that's zero, basically. 0 people feel that collaboration is not important. And the other, the largest sample you see here is it's hard. It's not easy to develop these collaborative relationships. What does collaboration mean? So we talked about what does it mean from an outcome perspective early on, the cost savings, productivity, innovation, etc. We're going to look at it from what does it mean to a supplier versus what does it mean to a customer. And I'll walk through this for you, and it looks like you can actually see it. I was a bit worried that you'd have trouble seeing that, but I'm going to go through these. What does collaboration mean to a supplier? The greens and the reds strongly agree, the greens. Yellow is non-committal, neutral, and disagree and strongly disagree are the red. But what we did, we asked them, kind of, what does collaboration mean to you? Do you agree with this statement? And the first one, my customer shares demand information, forecasts, future plans, promotions, etc. Right? Over 73% either strongly agree or agree with that statement. So what is collaboration to a supplier? You give me information, right? Give me information that I need to meet the plans that you have. That's it, right? Now, secondarily, my customer dedicates resources to work with my team to solve problems. Again, over 63%, close to 63% say collaboration involves people. It involves you bringing resources to me or sharing resources so we can solve problems. It's not just information, it's actually problem solvers, real live human problem solvers. And then notice it's a slight drop off here, but we talked about the importance of information, the basic demand information, forecasts, future plans. Notice the multi-level demand information, so more granular, more detailed demand information. It's a little bit less. You actually have close to 20% saying, no, it's not important. I don't agree that we need that level of information. So what you have here is a description that isn't very complicated, right? Need basic information, and we need people. But again, it's something that is very difficult to pull off. Now, what does it mean to a customer? This is the flip side, right? My supplier shares availability information with me, capacity, lead times. Need to know what they have available to me. That's again the flip side of the demand. But look at the number. You have almost 85% saying that's important. Again, my supplier dedicates resources. It involves people, information, and people. Multi-level availability information is a bit more important to the customer. I need to know more how deep in your supply base where your capacity resides. How much capacity do you have? Need more information than just the basic first tier of demand information. Now notice this one. My supplier shares cost savings with me. You have 21% saying that's not necessarily important, right? Cost savings, sharing of cost savings isn't necessarily important. You do obviously have, there's 55 or 56% who say that it is important. But the fact that that's less than the other areas, it kind of changes your mindset a little bit about the story we've been told about why collaboration may be difficult. It all goes down to cost. Who gets the biggest split of the pie? And we're going to look at that a little bit later. There's two different opinions when you survey different levels of an organization, whether they're managers, directors versus the very senior execs. And then lastly, my supplier shares multi-level cost information. Again, it's a little bit more important, but you do have a substantial portion saying they disagree. So what is supply chain collaboration? It's visibility. You get demand information for suppliers, you give availability information to your customers, you dedicate resources, and there is a degree of shared benefit. You're not going to get away. If you're collaborating, shared benefit exists. Okay. Just a quick visualization. Many of you may be familiar with this model, the bow tie versus the diamond. But it is a way for you to think about collaboration. Most of relationships, they're the two-pronged spear, the salesperson versus the buyer, right? Salesperson, behind the salesperson are all these other functions, right? R&D, production, marketing, information systems. But they're kind of kept. They're in the background. They don't have tremendous amounts of visibility into what the salesperson is committing. Oh, we're going to offer you this. This is great. Without actually saying, hey, do I have the supply capacity to actually commit to this, to fulfill what I've just committed to, right? And the buyer on the opposite side has this large organization behind them, and they're just looking at price. I'm going to beat this salesperson down. I'm going to wait until the last minute so I can get the last price. Now what that does, it obviously destroys our ability to plan. It destroys our ability to fulfill. It throws the organization, both organizations, out of whack. You have the diamond shape on the bottom where you have the alignment by, in some ways, functions here, right? Which the only way to achieve this is, I mean, it looks much better and it looks like something, yes, we want that, but it's very hard to do. Aligning your organizations that way, first you have to align internally. You have to, if you're going to have this kind of setup, R&D, production, marketing, sales, you have to have that alignment internally before you can then present that face to the customer. All right, now some of the barriers to collaboration. It probably is taken as self-evident. I think we get the Declaration of Independence. We'll use the term self-evident here, right? It's almost self-evident to the supply chain community that trust is the biggest barrier to collaboration. The research that we have here is that that's not necessarily the case. And again, it depends on who you ask within an organization. But take a look at some of this data, and I'm going to read again from right to left. So we worry that the individual we are working with is not aligned with his or her organization's internal goal. So they're a mess internally. They don't understand what the organization is trying to accomplish, which makes it difficult for us to collaborate with them. What is that? 40-some-odd% say, no, that's not the case at all. We don't believe that. That's not what we experience when we deal with our customer, with our trading partner. Now, one thing I want to mention about this data, and this is going to be important in just a minute, the majority of respondents to this 377, it really is the manager-director level. Okay? So your people, it's the operational folks, the folks who deal on a day-to-day basis with trading partners. Okay? We worry that we and our trading partner don't share the same goal. All right, a bit more of a larger sample say, yeah, 10.5% say they strongly agree that we and our trading partner don't share the same goal. But that's not huge. It's not a huge amount. It kind of flies a little bit in the face of that trust is the biggest issue. We worry that our trading partner lacks appropriate mechanisms to manage continuous collaborative issue resolution. That's a mouthful. But what's going on there is that are we able to sustain, is our trading partner able to sustain a collaborative relationship with us? A bit more here, but you have a bunch of, the majority of the folks saying within this size here, neutral, not really sure, right? We worry that our trading partner lacks a reliable process for issue resolution. That doesn't seem to be too much of a problem for us. And we worry that our trading partner will use information against us later. This is probably any discussion you have with someone in supply chain, perhaps a senior executive in supply chain. This is the point they make more than anything. If we open the books, if we start to share whether it's technology roadmaps with them, if we start to share some of our cost information in our supply base, they're just going to turn around and they're going to use that information against us when it comes time to renegotiate a deal. Right? That is the major thing that comment you will hear when you ask people about why it's so hard to collaborate. Here, it's not the biggest issue. And again, think of the people that we surveyed here, the day-to-day folks. Now, what are the biggest issues? And I think this does tie into some of the issues that Elemica is obviously going to talk about today. But information and connectivity. If it's not trust and governance, if that's not the problem that we experience as managers of our supply chain with our partners, what is it? Well, lack of information shared by us and our trading partners is a problem. We're not sharing information. And you can see the significant portion that agrees with that statement, right? Speed of issue resolution between us and our trading partner is a problem. Okay, so where are the human resources? Where are the people that are going to help me solve the problems? We're not able to solve these problems fast enough because you haven't given us the resources to do so. Okay? And then inconsistency in the granularity of information shared. Right? There's another significant portion here that say that is a problem. We sometimes get this level of information. Other times we're getting this. It's not consistent. It's not communicated in a way that is a standard process. We're hurting for information. Inconsistency in the timeliness of the information shared. So not only is the data itself inconsistent, the value of that information, you're not giving it to us in any kind of time frame that would make it useful for us. Inability to learn from past issue resolution is a problem. We repeat the same mistakes again. This is, it's the highest, if you look at that, the 15 or the 16% that strongly agree, it is the highest proportion of the survey respondents say that that's one of the major issues. We don't learn. We can't learn. We're always doing the same stuff over and over and over again. However, if you compare that with some of the other responses, you have disagree and strongly agree. You have over 33% saying they disagree with that. Connecting or onboarding new trading partners to our trade information flow is a problem. Not necessarily, not as much as some of the other issues. And then lastly, disagreement on facts between us and our trading partners is a problem. This is the least. If you factor in both agree and strongly agree, and if you look at the disagree, over 38% disagree with that statement. We're not questioning the facts. We're not looking at it as if we're two adversarials. This is my perspective and this is your perspective. We're not questioning the facts that when we do have information that we're receiving. Okay. Now, trust is evident in attitudes on shared benefits. So, again, we ask this question of, is it trust or is it information? Here, there's a bit of a discrepancy. If you look at the light blue, right? How do you describe the shared benefits derived from collaboration? Well, they accrue mostly to the most powerful partner. I think this makes sense. You hear that all the time in different industries. If you have a Walmart, they're the ones driving this. They get the benefits. But also, they are generally shared equally. You have the majority, 46% in this case, saying that they accrue equally. When we have these relationships, when we have a truly collaborative relationship, we're both benefiting. Again, what's so fascinating about this is it's duh. Well, why aren't we doing it? What's going on, right? If all these benefits exist, what's going on? Well, just to summarize this section, so trust isn't necessarily the problem. It's much more about information synchronicity, and it's also about talent. It's also about the people that we put in place to manage this. So you can't only do this with information. If you have the best, most pristine information flow between, you still need people. You still need problem solvers to actually work these relationships. Now, this is the big but. Sorry, guys. I told you a story about it not being trust. It actually is about trust when you survey a different executive. This here, now, the one, I guess, saving grace is this is a very small sample size. We ran a survey of just chief supply chain officers within our community. We were able to get 25 respondents. Look at the difference between what they feel is the primary issue when it comes to developing collaborative relationships. It is trust, right? It's not information. It's not the processes. It's not the incentives. It is trust. We don't trust each other. Now, you have that. This is one of those cases where you say there is truth in both of them, because if you have those senior executives driving those discussions, looking at, all right, how are we splitting this pie? There's always, you get to that executive table that disclose QBRs or whatever they are with your supplier and your customer, and you start to say, how are we splitting this pie? I know they're hiding margin from me. They're doing better than I am, right? Even though you ask you ask the question a different way, well, we do get mutual benefits, but we're not getting them, we want more of that benefit, right? So trust is the major issue that your chief supply chain officer is going to see. Now, in this study of the 26, I pulled out some quotes from the data. There was a field they could free text responses, right? We'll read through some of these. A lack of commitment problems. Why can't we develop these relationships with our customers? Well, it's a lack of capability to make it work and a lack of top executive support. So, as we said, the folks in the operational roles really want this to work, but the senior folks are not necessarily committed to this, right? Depending on the company, it is sometimes quite difficult to get with the right people within that company. You may be, as a supplier, you may be talking with somebody who just cannot get anything done. They do not have the power to actually put in place the relationships that you want. Our relationship with the customer is primarily through the sales organization. You go back to the bow tie, right? That bow tie example of the salesperson facing off against the procurement organization. And many practitioners are unwilling to set aside time to meet with our representatives. So you have this dynamic where you can think of it for a second from healthcare. You've all seen, I'm sure you've heard about just the frustration that a doctor's office would have with sales reps visiting the office, right? It's the same exact problem you have here. I don't want to make time for the salesperson. I have many, many other things to do. But, hey, if you put a supply chain person with that salesperson, yeah, I can meet with them because I'm going to solve problems. In time, it's not a customer priority. Now on the supplier side, the biggest issue in recent times has been a focus on cost rather than value that can be generated. Again, what the supplier is looking at is they're just interested in cost. That's it. Fear that transparency will result in the buyer taking an increased unfair share of the value. Now again, these are the chief supply chain officers making these comments, right? If we are being transparent, right, if our suppliers be transparent with us, the buyer, the customer in this case, is just going to ask for it. That's what I want that. You opened up your books, I see what you're doing, I see the margin you're making, and I want to take that from you. Holding back information, so what is the response, what does the supplier do? Holding back information, not sharing, waiting to see if the other side figures it out. Both sides, again, feel the other is getting a bigger share of the pie. And then collaboration with suppliers can be challenging for a number of reasons. There can be issues with R&D teams, their engagement, there can be trust issues on both sides, and it takes more time up front. That's a big thing. Again, one thing I haven't made clear yet in this presentation is this is not something where you turn it on and kind of walk away and it takes care of itself. There is an enormous amount of persistent and sustained management that has to occur if you are to make these relationships succeed. Again, the human factor. This causes teams, you kind of have a little momentum, inertia sets in, and you lose that momentum. Benefits, I'm not going to spend too much time because we've kind of already discussed them. Collaborative execution, you save money. Look at that. I mean, it's not 100%, but it is as close you can get in a survey to just the highest amount, right? 55 and 34 either strongly agree or agree that you save money. It's more cost effective to manage, to collaborate with your customer, or trading partner rather. How do we do this? We reduce inventory, right? The 43 or 44% and 36% say that this is one of the primary benefits. We're able to cut our inventory, and you'll see this in one of the examples I use in a moment with General Mills, the amount of inventory that they're able to slice when they actually work together with the retailers, the Krogers, the Walmarts, etc. Collaboration minimizes risks. Without a doubt, these are the benefits. Innovation is better. You're going to see an example at the end of, again, the efficiency, which you could look at as productivity and cost savings versus innovation. The innovation benefits are, at least according to the community, they're huge. And it does. What would those innovation benefits be? You lessen the risk on resources you need to personally or as a company invest up front. You share that, which lessens the risk if it doesn't fail. We all probably know how often products actually fail, the rate with which they fail. And you temper that with, if we are working together with the groups that are going to be primarily responsible for helping us get the product to market, we're going to break our time to market deadline. And again, one of the examples you'll see from AT&T discusses this. Collaboration enables management by exception. Again, a large percent agree. There's a bit that are neutral here, but a large percent agree that once these are going, we're not just meeting on every little firefight anymore. We're really looking at the things that matter, the things that are of strategic importance. In here, collaborative partners solve problems faster. Look at that look at that split. That's even higher than the one I showed you earlier, right? 92% say when we collaborate, we're solving problems much faster. I mean, that is that learning curve. And if you think about that accelerated learning, what are the ways you can learn? What are the ways you can drive improvements in the talent within your supply chain? Have them collaborating with their customers or their suppliers. Problem resolution is twice as fast, right? If 46% feel that we resolve problems, not only we're resolving them twice as fast than we did before we had these collaborative relationships. And again, it accelerates learning. 50% steeper, if you look at the blue there, the 51%, significantly faster, 1.5 times the rate of improvement on relative metrics. That's what this learning curve of 50%, what we're looking at is the speed of improvement, a positive improvement in relevant metrics, operational metrics. All right? And senior leaders do not question this, right? They don't question the benefits of collaboration. And they accrue in both directions, whether you're a supplier or a customer, right? The senior executive says, yes, innovation processes, which again, it's the number one benefit you have here, is that we improve our innovation processes. All right, let's take a quick look at some examples. What I wanted to do, I got 4 examples from different industries here. And I'll just walk through them briefly. But each one of them touches on one of those benefits, the efficiency, the cost savings, or the innovation potential, right? So World Duty Free Group, not sure if you're familiar with them, but it's a travel retailer. They sell fragrances, they sell confections, chocolates, they sell alcohol, tobacco at airports, right? What they had noticed, they had run their analysis in 2010, and what they realized is that the confectionery business was taking up 20% of the space within its warehouse. It was devoted to the confections. But it was only 7% of sales. So they looked at this and said, we have to change this. We need to work with our partners. And this is a story of collaborative, consolidated logistics. So what they did, they were originally, before they started to make changes, they were receiving full truckloads of goods on a weekly basis. And they were receiving full truckloads from every single, not every single, but their majority of their suppliers. So the Mars, the Hershey, etc. Their main suppliers, they were receiving full truckloads on a weekly basis. Even though what they learned is that Kuehne + Nagel, the 3PL Kuehne + Nagel was all of their 4 main suppliers were using Kuehne + Nagel out of the Netherlands, right? So they said, why are we doing this? Can we work together? Can we have you, Kuehne + Nagel, consolidate the freight? We'll have a full truckload, but we want them delivered 6 times a week now to the UK. This isn't all of Europe. This was just the UK. And they did. They put this into place. They reduced their inventory by 20%. They cut their lead times by a day. And they improved their on-shelf availability by a certain, I think it was about 2 percentage points. Okay? General Mills, another example. And this is, if you think about the World Duty Free Group, efficiency gains. Same with General Mills. Although what General Mills is putting in place will have the long-term benefits of better launches with their customers. Now, General Mills, they surveyed their customers. A lot of this will begin with surveys of your customers. They surveyed their customers, and their customers said, we want partners, and we want customized supply chain solutions. You've got to have to think about this. You guys are all process industries, but if you think about what a retailer is facing, the dynamic of a retailer like a Walmart, like a Kroger, or Tesco, whoever it might be, Amazon is just screwing up their world. They don't know how to deal with it. And the reaction is we have to cut costs, or we have to save cash. We have to reduce the amount of inventory we're holding. So we need you to treat us a little bit differently. We need customized solutions. So this is what General Mills said, okay, let's try this. Now, one thing they had to do, they needed to align internally first. I told you about the, you cannot go to your customer with a plan if internally your organization, finance, supply chain, R&D is not on board with it, right? So they had to align internally first, and then they went to they took this externally with a certain number of customers. And again, this is not something you take to every single customer you have. The program that they launched, it's called GEOS, General Mills End-to-End Optimized Solutions. And what it really is, it's the human resources. It's the people. It's a SWAT team of individuals who drive continuous improvement efforts and lean practices with their customers. That's in essence what it is. You have a dedicated team who works with your customer to solve supply chain challenges. And what General Mills has been able to do here, they've reduced their unproductive inventory between. Now this is not just General Mills. This is across that value chain. It's the customer and it's General Mills. They've reduced unproductive inventory. They've reduced fuel, freight, storage costs. Again, the efficiency gains. They've reduced labor within the stores, and they've reduced unproductive inventory in the stores. So that unsaleables, the obsolete inventory. And then lastly, again, they've improved their on-shelf availability, which as you think about how this is going to, if the on-shelf availability is going to improve your innovation processes, you stand a much greater chance of actually having space on the shelf when you launch those new products. All right, Lenovo, whoops, let me go back here. Lenovo, this is an example of, we're moving to the innovation benefits, right? Lenovo worked with Intel. This was a program that Lenovo and Intel, the semicon manufacturer, put together. And essentially what they did, they collaborated early on in the innovation process. They share with each other the technology roadmaps that each organization has. That was and obviously to do that, it does require a great deal of trust. Now, by doing this, it allowed them, by sharing the technology roadmaps, by working together in this fashion, they created a set of metrics that were consistent for Lenovo and consistent for Intel. The way they measure performance is exactly the same way. So they aligned on metrics, and it's time to value, it's time to quality, perfect order fulfillment process. But that stat early on about the facts, we don't question the facts. Lenovo and Intel do not question the facts because they're measuring things exactly the same. Okay? And then lastly, another innovation example is AT&T. So to keep pace with change in telecom, which is very, very fast, AT&T re-engineered the way it works with its suppliers. Now it created it created these 8 domains. You can think of them as categories that it would place. In each one of those categories, you would have 2 suppliers, right? Now, the way they changed the game, the way AT&T changed the game, and it's risky. Many of you may say, there's no way, I would never do that. But what they did is, with these 2 key suppliers in each domain, they offered them 5-year contracts. Said, you have a 5-year contract to work with us to develop within this domain, and again, a domain is a category, the product type. You have 5 years to work with us, and we are going to give you 12 months, a 12-month rolling forecast, right? So you can feel confident in the R&D investments that you're going to make, right? We want to lessen the risk, so you aren't going to say, these guys are, first off, they're going to dump us after year 1, and we're not sure whether of what they're actually, what they've committed to sell, right? They might come to us and say, we're changing the forecast in 3 months. They've taken that off the table. And what that has done for AT&T, again, for the supplier, it's provided that confidence. Just as with Lenovo and Intel, AT&T has integrated its metrics with these key domain suppliers, and it's also integrated the quality systems. Now, here the major benefit is time to market. In one case, because of this, AT&T was able to launch a product 2 years faster than they did before they had this in place. All right, so the benefits. So we looked at these early on. Cost savings, risk mitigation, innovation, and productivity. And again, that we learn faster. When we work together, we're going to learn faster, which is going to drive improvements not only in our organization and our talent. The talent level is going to improve, but it's going to improve across the value chain. Now, I have about 9 seconds to cover this. This framework here, this is what we talked about this entire presentation, right? Efficiency gains, and you can think of this as a matrix, right? You start to look at what the purpose of this model here is to get you to start to think about, I can't tackle everything. I can't do everything all at once when it comes to collaboration. I have to choose the areas that I can succeed in, right? Do I want to focus first on the efficiency gains, right? And logistics pooling, the World Trade Group example, right? VMI, CPFR, they're much more, they have a much higher impact, but on the efficiency scale, but they may be a little bit more harder to do. Which ones do I want to focus on? And secondarily, or correspondingly, you have innovation, right? You have the technology road mapping that Lenovo and Intel are involved in, and very, very high impact, but that's not efficient. That costs a lot to put that in place. So you start to segment. This is a way to kind of segment your understanding of where the benefits, where you want to focus your efforts. Okay, just some concluding thoughts here. Prioritize, and this is the slide we just looked at, your collaborative opportunities as you would manage portfolio decisions. You're really looking at your opportunities with customers as a portfolio, right? What's going to work, what's not going to work, who do I leave out, who do I include? Segment suppliers and customers to separate real opportunities from the pipe dreams, right? You're not going to do this with everyone. They're not going to have the capabilities. That's the other thing. Your customer or supplier has to have the talent. It has to have the systems to actually be able to do this. And you have to then go sniff out and find where a real opportunity exists and where it doesn't. Use respect to build respect, right? I mean, I think that's in the Bible. Open up to risk sharing and new capital structures. So we have to become more open to those opportunities of where we are saying, all right, I'll take a little bit of the risk on myself. I'll make some investments, but I expect this from you. So with that, I think, Shauna, do we have time for any questions? Or? There's one over here, Sean.
Thank you. It was a lovely presentation. My name is Ralph. I'm from BSF. And I've done a lot of these collaborations with customers, vendors, service providers over the last 12 years. I missed something, and that's change management. Because you agree, you have a management approval, and your business partner has a management approval. You set something in place, and after 1.5 years, everything falls apart because you don't have change management in place. Yeah. That is something I'm missing. And by the way, I strongly disagree with the statement of the senior executives. The biggest problem always is in the process.
I love it. I love it. And I think BASF is a classic example of change management in action. Well, the story you tell about change management, there's a webinar in our library on the efforts that you went through. And that's, I mean, I look at that as the massive, massive organization, the complexity of that. It's, whatever you think about it, it's a story that kind of resonates. But you're right. I mean, the change management issue is, again, maybe change management is the second most overused word in supply chain because it's one of those words that, yeah, no, I get it. We need to have some kind of formal process in place that is going to allow us to not only get people excited about what's about to happen, but over time, keep them marching in the direction that you want. The sustaining change, I think, is the part that becomes so difficult, because you have people who, it's a matter of, well, what's different now? And it is very easy to lose someone than it is to actually keep them on board. So, I mean, it is. And that's what I think. If you think of this General Mills example, and I'm trying to get them to record that as part of our webinar library, their story, that's what they're doing. They're telling. And one thing about supply chain stories, they are stories. There's some fact and there's some wishes when you hear these stories. It's not all real. But what you have to do, and what General Mills is trying to do, is they're trying to say, all right, this is what we have. This is this initiative we have with our customers, Geos, right? They've branded it, right? So you go through all these things that marketing does as they interact with customers. They've branded this. We want to be able to, the organization, oh yeah, we're talking about Geos, where it's kind of infiltrated the organization. It's embedded itself in the organization. That's very hard to do. You need a whole suite of supply chain, not only supply chain, but communication skills to make that happen. So I agree, it's a major issue. And I want to be able to share with the chief supply chain officers and go, guys, it's not trust, it's process. It's not easy to make that claim, though. Any other questions? One in the back.
Presentation. Jerry Turner with Elemica. Why do you think the supply chain executives are so hung up on the issue of trust as compared to the people doing the work? Are they just inherently more paranoid?
You know what? I mean, the only thing that I can think of when it comes down to why they are hung up on this trust is that they are at the, first off, they're not involved in the day-to-day. They're not involved in the process. They're not involved in what types of relationships that a practitioner is developing with someone on the other side of the aisle. They are in they're in the QBRs. Sometimes they're not even in those, right? They're in the quarterly business review, where you have the senior folk from company X, senior folk from company Y, and it is a negotiation about, again, it comes down to how we're splitting up the pie. It was funny, I was talking with this global VP of global distribution for a pharma company, and he admitted, he said, if they give me that information with the current way relationships are structured, with the current dynamic in industry, I'm going to take that and I'm going to retender and save money. He admitted it. But his point is, if we change the dynamic, if we can actually change the way that we are currently interacting, which it's not just one company and one company can't do it. The industry kind of has to get behind a new way of doing business, and however that might be, because there's going to be, when you start to describe new ways of doing business, you end up with losers. There's going to be losers. Nobody wants that. No, I mean, the loser obviously doesn't want that, right? So I think the chief supply chain officer is saying, well, this is the current reality. This is the model that we have. This is the business model that we have with our partners. I have to honor that, right? So if they're going to share, if they're going to open up their books to me, I'm going to look at that and say, oh, look at this. This is great. Look at all this money that I can save if I, use this against them. Any other questions? No? Good stuff. Well, thank you very much. And I think I'm not sure who comes up next, but I'll leave that to you guys. Thank you.